I'd like to go through a couple of examples on how to figure out the name of a compound if it requires Roman numerals. Remember, you've got four elements, four ions you have to remember. Lead, copper, tin, and iron all form multiple ions. You've got lead 2 and lead 4. You've got copper 1 and copper 2. There's tin 2 and tin 4. And then there's iron 2 and iron 3. So those are the four ions that you had to memorize that you've got to kind of recognize that have multiple charges. So when you see these, they're going to require Roman numerals to distinguish between the two charges. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how to do that if we've only got the name sitting in front, or excuse me, the formula sitting in front of us. So let's say we've got CuCl2, and just like we would normally name ionic compounds, we're going to name the first ion copper. The problem is I don't know whether that's a +2 or a +3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave that Roman numeral, +1 or a +2, so I'm just going to leave that Roman numeral area empty, and I'll fill that in a little bit. Chloride. Well, now I've got to figure out which one I've got, copper 1 or copper 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the formula. I'm just going to write down the ions as many times as the subscripts indicate. There's no subscript here, so I'm only going to write copper once. Chloride has a subscript 2, so I'm going to write that twice. I still don't know what the charge on this is, but if I go to my list of common ions, I can see that chloride is a -1, and that's always true. So this is going to be a -1, that's going to be a -1. So this totals up to a -2. If I add those two guys up, and I know that whatever charge this is plus a -2, that has to add up to 0. Well, what plus a -2 adds up to 0? That'd be a +2, so this must be the copper 2 ion. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put Roman numeral 2 in here. So it's copper 2 chloride. Let's try a little more complicated example. In this case, I've got lead and phosphate. So I've got lead. Again, I don't know whether this is lead 2 or lead 4. So I'm going to leave my Roman numeral area blank. And then I've got phosphate. And again, I'm kind of doing the reverse of the activity that we did in class. I'm going to put down the cards. In other words, I'm going to write down my ions. So I've got Pb. Well, I've got that 3 times. I'm going to write lead 3 times. And I've got phosphate, and I've got that 4 times. PO4, 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 PO4. Again, lead's either going to be lead 2 or lead 4. I don't know which. And in order to figure that out, I'm going to go back to my list of common ions, which you should have memorized. I'm going to find phosphate. But if you don't, you probably want to look it up. And there's phosphate, and that's got a -3 charge. That's the only charge it can possibly have. So I'm going to put a -3 here. So -3 plus a -3 plus a -3 plus a -3 gives me a grand total of a -12. And again, this thing's got to add up to 0. So I'm looking for something here. That's got to be a +12. +12 plus a -12 is going to give me 0. So this +12 gets distributed to the 3 leads. So essentially what I've got is 12 divided by 3 is going to give me a positive 4. So these guys are all plus 4, and that means I've got lead 4 phosphate.